The Nashville Predators are out of the postseason, but how did they stack up against playoff teams in the regular season? We're going to take a look and see what that record tells us on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Friday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and, of course, our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I am Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio. And my friends, I have a partner in crime.
Yes, you do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm the Nashville Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Well, one of the expectations that we had back on, July 2nd was that the Nashville Predators were going to be in the postseason. They could even make a potential push to the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, here we sit on the outside looking in. Today, we are going to take a look back at how the Predators fared against the Western Conference teams that did do enough to get into the postseason. And we're going to see what we can learn about this team moving on. And contrary to what our anxiety likes us to do, Emma and I will also make some Western Conference predictions. Before we dive into all of that, I want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. It has been 84 years this regular season, Emma, but the playoffs start tomorrow. I really felt like we were going to be way more jazzed this time of year back in the summer. But yeah, here's Nashville on the outside looking in. So let's review the Western Conference matchups. We have the Winnipeg Gents, who won the Central, against the St. Louis Blues, who got the second wildcard spot. Dallas, second in the Central, against Colorado, who was third. Vegas was first in the Pacific, so they are matching up against the Minnesota Wild, who have a wildcard one spot. And then you have the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers, who finished second and third, respectively, in the Pacific Division. So just laying it out there, set aside the Nashville Predators for a minute, Emma. Which team or teams surprise you the most, whether it is a team that got into the postseason or where a team finished in the, to get into the postseason? Is there any real shockers to you here in the Western Conference?
Well, I think Winnipeg finishing as high as they did. Their whole season has been a surprise. Not that they weren't expected to be a playoff team. Of course they were. But, not just winning the division, but running away with it. Running away with the Central, best team in the league. That, even when they started out the season, when they had like the opposite start to the season that the Predators had, when they started, we were there. They had the 15-0 start, and remember who beat them to end that streak? Wow, what a year it's been. Sure. Anyway, I digress. Even when they had that hot start, I think even then people are like, okay, that was cute, Winnipeg. That was nice. That was good for you. But you're a playoff team. You are, but let's chill. And they really haven't. They have really just been kind of riding that high all year. Obviously, Connor Hellebuyck, big part of that, should come as no surprise. Yeah. So that's surprising. I would say both of the wild card spot, like Minnesota and St. Louis, are both pretty surprising. I think the fact that they had very kind of opposite seasons as well. Minnesota was just skyrocketing early in the year. Then they had a bunch of injuries and they just really kind of limped to the finish line there. And then St. Louis was kind of the opposite. They've been kind of in a similar spot to the Predators for a while, where they like kind of in the middle, not like full sending on being a contender, but not rebuilding. Their roster construction is kind of keeping them from rebuilding right now. So it's like, all right, well, they're just kind of there, they were just kind of in the middle. And they have been the hottest team in the league right now. And so I think that the Winnipeg St. Louis series is going to be a lot more competitive than I think a lot of people would have thought at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. Starting back with Winnipeg, I was one of those, aren't they cute? Because they're going to come back down to earth. And Winnipeg just didn't really come back down to earth. Bless them. I think it's going to be so interesting to see what happens in the first round of the playoffs, because you and I have said before, I do not want to be the team that plays the St. Louis Blues right now. Timing is everything. And I'm thinking, oh, those Blues, Winnipeg was like, dang it, I thought being the first overall was supposed to be a really big deal. It's going to be something. Minnesota surprises me, just simply like you said, what they have been through this season. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov only played 41 games. Joel Eriksson Ek dealt with a lower body injury. I think he played like 45, 46 games. But it's been really amazing to see some of the other players in Minnesota, like Marco Rossi and Matt Boldy, these like young kids that were consistently good. And as a Nashville Predator fan, I find myself feeling a little bit jealous, because I wanted to see Luke Evangelista have Matt Boldy-ish numbers. I wanted to see some of our younger guys. Like, I don't know if you remember him. There was a guy that used to play here. His name is Phil Tomasino. It's gonna take you a minute to put that together. But like don't recall, can't remember. Some of the younger players that Nashville was on the fence about, I'm like, surely one of them is going to have, a Marco Rossi season. And not only did they not have that season, they are nowhere to be found in the Nashville 615. So Minnesota has been fascinating. And look, I know people did not like John Hines here. I know a lot of people were not keen on him, but secretly, go get him, John, because you literally duct tape in a dream through a stretch of just horrific injuries. And there are the Minnesota Wild. I don't like their matchup for them. God bless you, Minnesota. But I love the tenacity with which they somehow found a way to get it done. And it is baffling to me that Nashville couldn't get it done. Nashville has been so far outside of this postseason conversation in the Western Conference for forever. And even when they lost the first 5 games, Emma, I was like, ooh, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. But this is a roster with enough talent to turn it around. And the turn maybe came in the last 15 games, but even then it was more of like a tilt-a-whirl and not a turn. So it's amazing when I look at the teams that are in as compared to what the Nashville Predators should have been. Now the Preds had injuries too, so let's be clear, but it's just been it's been a poop show. And when it is a poop show, you end up going to Turks and Caicos to watch the playoffs, because there are other teams who have been through it who got it done anyway. And I think that's one of the things that Barry Trotz is going to have to weigh here coming up. Why couldn't we Minnesota something together? Yeah, existential.
Duct tape in a dream. Duct tape in a dream. That's all it takes sometimes.
That's all it takes. Yeah. Coming up, we're going to talk about how Nashville fared this regular season against these Western Conference teams that are in the postseason. We're going to talk about that and share one fascinating stat when it comes to playing the teams that are in the postseason. Did you know that your Fire TV also is an Xbox? You can turn your TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. You can play high quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and it's easier to travel while allowing your kids to take games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube, third gen. So, Emma, I did a little digging. And somebody probably digged this up somewhere else, but I did it myself. So the old-fashioned way with a notebook and a pen and duct tape and a dream. And I wanted to see, how did Nashville do against these Western Conference teams that are continuing to play? And the numbers are kind of interesting. In some of them, not surprising. The Predators went 9-18 against these teams. So a losing record against teams in the postseason. That feels on brand, friends. Losing record. Interestingly, just from an offensive perspective, 4 of the top 6 teams when it comes to goals scored in the league are Western Conference playoff teams: the Stars, the Jets, Vegas, and the Avs, which when you look at Nashville and offensive production, yeah, Nashville could not score goals against anybody, but even against these Western Conference playoff teams, they just were not able to score goals.
I mean, except, in the season finale against the Dallas Stars, they scored 5 of them, but, whatever.
Look, I still feel really good about that game, you all. We are hanging on to the good things. Don't come in here and try to snuff out our joy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
could not get it done. Couldn't get it done. To our earlier point about Minnesota, though, like, I wanted to go back to this for a second because we were talking about, duct tape and a dream, but also really, really good goaltending from Minnesota this year. Philip Gustafson really stepped up. Obviously,
Amazing.
Marc-Andre Fleury is a legend. So, good goaltending there. Nashville, of course, I'm not going to sit here and say it was UC Saros' best year by any stretch, but I mean, he really didn't have any help. So that's
None.
all I would say.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And that matters when it comes to goal differential. Here's Nashville's stats against these playoff teams in the West versus the St. Louis Blues. Nashville was outscored in 4 games, 18-8. Versus the Winnipeg Jets, Nashville was outscored 10-8, a little closer. Versus Edmonton, 3 games that we played against Edmonton, Nashville was outscored 12-5, baby. Versus the LA Kings, interesting, 3 games played. These were such low scoring affairs, which was interesting to me. Nashville was outscored 6-3 in 3 games. But here's what is so interesting. Nashville had the scoring advantage over Dallas. That 5-1 final game of the season definitely helped. 13-11. They had the scoring advantage over Minnesota in 4 games, 11-10. And then they tied the Avs 11-11, which I thought was really interesting. But when you add it up and you do the math, Nashville was a -19 versus Western Conference playoff teams. And what is so frustrating to me is you look at goals scored, and here's the thing, that's what determines your season. It's not anything else. But if you look at expected goals for, Nashville was ahead of teams like Minnesota and St. Louis this season in expected goals for. There's the dream. We just had no duct tape, so It's like it was kind of a little bit right there, and you just couldn't get it done. Here, Emma, is the stat that I need you to make this make sense for me. Here's the record, Nashville's record against the Western Conference playoff teams when they are at home at Bridgestone Arena. Preds 8-7. A winning record over playoff teams in the Western Conference, 8-7. Emma, the record against Western Conference playoff teams when Nashville is on the road, 1-11, sister, 1-11. The only game they won against a Western Conference playoff team on the road was against Dallas, and it was in December. What the flag knock? Make it make sense. Begin.
No, I cannot. I simply cannot. Side note, them losing on the road, that does make sense because they were terrible on the road this year. And we talked about that on yesterday's show. But man, like I just don't get it either because sometimes you see these teams on the road at different times, and even like the 2 games they played in Winnipeg, that was on the same road trip. Do you remember that? They bookended the road trip. It's like and then there was the one against, I'm trying to remember what they were. I remember we saw them play St. Louis like 18 times in the last 2 weeks of the season, but then
it was a nightmare that just kept coming back.
We're like, all right, we get it.
You're better.
But yeah, like even like Colorado, you see them 2 different times during the year. Remember back at the beginning of this season when we actually had this thing called hope, and we were looking ahead at the schedule, and we were looking at potential problem areas, and we were like, oh man, that first stretch, like that first, I can't remember, it was like November, like October into November, and we're like, ooh, they've got Colorado, they've got Winnipeg, they've got Edmonton, like that's gonna be tough. But then we were like, if they can just get through that, then they'll be fine. Spoiler, they were not fine. Nothing was fine.
Nothing's been fine.
Nothing has been fine. So in a way, that whole road stat discrepancy just like doesn't surprise me. Just because this, we've talked about how last season and this season felt like we're watching 2 completely different teams. But at times during this season, it has felt like we are watching 2 completely different teams. And I think that road versus home, discrepancy speaks to that a little bit.
Yeah. And also, let's just be honest, location. It sucks if you were St. Louis, Minnesota, or Nashville in the Western Conference. It sucks because the travel is extreme compared to teams that are in the Eastern Conference. Like, oh, this would have been a nice year to be in the Eastern Conference. Way better travel for most of those teams. And also, maybe Nashville stood a chance in the East. I don't know. At least we would have had better conversation for longer with Nashville in the Eastern Conference. But it just didn't happen. I was so surprised when I saw that. I know Nashville has not been able to win on the road, but they won 1 game against a Western Conference play. 1 game is all they could pull out against these top teams in the Western Conference. And here's a spoiler alert. I don't care what your roster looks like. You have to be able to win against really good teams in your conference on the road. You can't, those cannot be games where you're like, well, we're not going to get that one, but we'll get all the other ones and it'll be okay. No, it really, as you can see, it is not okay. No one is okay here. So interesting. The other thing is people have this perception that Nashville plays to the level of their opponent. Nashville's really good against really good teams, but they just don't play as well against bad teams. And I'm like, friends, Nashville didn't necessarily play really well against really good teams this season either. And I think that's something that I get why people feel like that is the pattern. But if you look at it, not so much, man. Not so much this year. And again, don't even add us. It's not a talent issue. It is not that Nashville is not a talented team. But man, they couldn't get it done anywhere, anytime against basically anyone this season. And you know what? It's a lot to figure out. Barry Trotz, we found out that Barry Trotz is having media availability sometime next week, friends. That is going to be an edge of your seat media availability because A, Barry Trotz stream of consciousness, always great. But B, what are you going to do and what are you going to learn in these exit interviews? And what are you going to do with the information you have? We'll see what he does. Coming up, Nashville, of course, you know it. We feel it. Nashville out. But who do we think is going to be all in? We're going to give you our series that we are most excited to watch and who we think is going to move on out of the first round. Yes, we know it. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here. And if you have never been to a live NHL playoff game, I am telling you, it is unlike anything else. There's the intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, the energy in the city. It is all next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front. There are no surprise fees at checkout. The app even shows you panoramic seat views so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, you know you're protected, whether it is cancellation protection, job loss insurance, or their 24-hour return guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Emma, we've touched on this matchup, this Jets Blues matchup. Jets sometimes struggle in the postseason, but they have been so good. I think this is going to be an interesting goaltending matchup. Who you got coming out of the first round? Jets versus Blues. And in how many games? Let's just, if we're going to make ourselves a little anxious, let's just put it all out there.
I hate this so much. I mean, listen, my preseason Stanley Cup matchup was Rangers Oilers, so that's looking really good. So basically what I'm saying is just don't listen to me. I mean, I'm going to go Winnipeg.
Okay.
But I don't think that I don't think it'll come easy. I'm going to go Jets in 7.
Interesting. This is one I am most excited about, but I'm actually going to go Blues in 7 because I think the Blues are riding vibes. I can't imagine what that feels like. It looks from a distance amazing.
It looks delightful.
It looks delightful. And look, I would love Connor Hellebuyck to win a Vezina so much more than I want Jordan Binnington to. Like, that's just what's real. I just feel like the Blues have something. And every so often, there is a team that hits the postseason that has something. 2017, the Nashville Predators had something. I just feel like the Blues have whatever that X factor is where it kind of can upset the apple cart. And I know Winnipeg, every so often, Winnipeg, bless their hearts, the postseason is just not for them. So we'll see. They've been so good, though, this year. I can't imagine they're going to fall apart. So I'm going to say Blues in 7, but that's going to be a really fun one. Here's another one that I think could be so interesting. Dallas, Colorado. How do you see Dallas, Colorado in the first round playing out, Emma?
I'm upset about this because this was the series that by far I was looking forward to the most. I was so excited for this. I thought it was going to be so competitive. Now, Dallas still doesn't have Miro Heiskanen. They now likely don't have Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
And now what I will say, I'm seeing a lot. So I reported that, Robertson had left Bridgestone in that knee brace after he took that hit from Michael McCarron. But it was like I was getting so much. I was seeing so many reactions from Stars fans like, "Oh, that's it. We're cooked. They're going to get swept, blah blah blah." And here's what I will say. Number 1, if Dallas plays the way that they did against the Nashville Predators on Wednesday, then yes, they will get
You
swept
will.
because yikes.
Whoa.
But I also think that while yes, losing those guys hurts a lot. I mean, I think that losing Heiskanen hurts you more than anything. Robertson,
Yeah.
yes, is in the middle of a career year. He's your leading scorer. However, that is still a very deep team
Mhm.
Offensively. Defensively, not so much, but offensively, they're a deep team. They have really good goaltending. I still am going to give the edge to Colorado in the series, but
Mhm.
I'm going to say Avs in 5.
Yeah, that's exactly where I have it. I have Colorado in 5. Dallas just looks dazed and confused. They look lost. I agree with you. I think Jason Robertson, you hate to see him not play. And I know like people are like, why would you? This is why you rest your starters.
It's not the
But
NBA, people.
yeah, and it's not. And Jason Robertson wants to play these games because this is a team that needed its starters to go into the postseason feeling good. So I don't blame Pete DeBoer for starting the players that he did, not
No.
resting the stars of the stars. You hate to see it, but Dallas just looks lost. Here's the other thing. I think Colorado has fixed goaltending with the lumberyard. I think, they have made the moves that they have needed to make to get solid goaltending through the postseason, which has always kind of been the hitch in their giddy up. I also think there is something about the potential. We don't know for sure yet that Gabriel Landeskog is going to play in game 1 of the series, but it's there. He is with the team. He is on the ice practicing with this team. And I think there is a morale boost for Colorado coming with Gabriel Landeskog coming back. And I really do think it's Colorado in 5. And bless their hearts, I think Dallas, I think that one's I think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to leave a mark.
I would have thought, like I said before, I would have thought this one would go to 7 games.
Oh, yeah.
I said repeatedly, like, it's not fair that this is the first round
First
matchup.
round.
It's not fair that one of these teams is not advancing past the first round. But again, I had seen, obviously, I knew coming into the game against Nashville, Dallas had been, on that 6-game, now 7-game losing streak. But, the numbers aren't always everything. Stats aren't everything. It's like I hadn't actually watched a lot of their games during that streak. So it's like, okay, yeah, they lost, but you never know. Sometimes you run into a hot goalie or, something happened. There's all kinds of things. But I'm like, maybe they're just maybe it's the Nashville Predators special where they're out shooting and out chancing everyone, but then just not getting the results. I'm like, maybe that's it. But oh my, when they played Nashville, they looked, like you said, dazed and confused. They looked lost. They looked bad. Like, and again, no disrespect to Nashville. Very glad they got to go out on a high note. But I think that game was less about Nashville playing really well and more about Dallas just looking really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Nashville looked bad, but like, holy,
Yeah.
they got some issues.
Nashville, in that game, it was like Nashville could smell the kill because the
Yes.
chum was in the water.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nashville
was in
smelled
the
blood in the
water.
water. They
Yes.
smelled blood in the water. And
Yeah.
to their credit, they pounced. So
Yeah, and that's not something they've done all season long. Ask us how we know. Just ask us how we know. We know. It's been 84 years. Let's look at Vegas, Minnesota. This is an interesting one for me. Like, look, on paper, on ice, just eye test, I think Vegas is faster. I think they're more physical. I think they can outplay Minnesota. I think you've got to have Kaprizov if you're Minnesota in like peak form. I'm not sure he's there yet. But I also like just the scrappiness of this Minnesota team. Like, you have been handed a lot of lemons and you made pretty watered down, but still passable lemonade. I do think Vegas is going to win this. I have Vegas in 6, but I think Minnesota is going to hang in this a little bit. I don't think Vegas is going to run away with this game by game as much. So I've got Vegas in 6 in this one. What do you think, Emma?
I'm going with Vegas. I think I'm going to go Vegas in 5.
Okay.
I just think that, like you said, totally agree with Kaprizov. You need him at full strength, which at this point, I don't know that he is. And I think that's the problem when you have so much of your offensive strategy revolves around one player. That creates problems if that play. I mean, look what happened to Edmonton and Connor McDavid last year in the first round of the playoffs when he was, and then you find out that he, after the fact was suffering from an injury the whole time. You're like, that impacted them. Yes, they were able to overcome and they made it to the final and it was very exciting, but still, like, that was,
That's
yeah.
lightning in a bottle. I think
Yeah.
that's lightning in a bottle in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
LA Kings in Edmonton. Look, friends. LA Kings, like Nashville, limited them to 6 goals in 3 games. So, we're like, oh, yeah, this is good. I'm picking this based on what I want, not what I know, Emma, because let's be real. Edmonton, they are like limping to this finish. Like McDavid has been injured. Draisaitl's been injured. Zach Hyman's been injured. Friends, Matthias Ekholm will not play in this first round series. And I desperately want Matthias Ekholm back in the postseason. So I am going Edmonton in 7. Gosh darn it. And that's strictly, you know what, friends? That's just vibes. That's just because that's what I want. You came here for like hockey analytics. Well, you got guts. You got feels on this. Edmonton in 7.
Hey,
I'm
you know
probably
what?
wrong.
'Tis the season though for those kinds of, crazy things happen this time of year.
They do.
And I think, now these teams, they play each other every damn year in the first round.
Welcome.
So believe me when I say there is no love lost between these two teams.
Mhm.
And especially, I will say though, like, because of that, this was always a series that kind of bored me because it was like, well, it's gonna be Edmonton, they're gonna win, like, that's it, like, let's just move on. This year, though, talking about straight vibes, I don't know what the deal is with LA because, like, quite frankly, when you look at their roster top to bottom, I'm not
It's
like,
okay.
it's fine, but it's like their biggest need during the offseason was more scoring. They needed more offense. And so they went and got Warren Fogle and Tanner Jeannot, which, no
As one
disrespect.
does.
I'm like, no
As one
disrespect, but
does.
really? Really?
Yeah.
That was your answer to the no offense problem? And then, of course, they lose Drew Doughty for a while. He had that nasty leg injury. He comes back. Darcy Kemper is one of the weirdest, most like,
Dude.
he is such an enigma to me because he will, like, for one season, this Stanley Cup champion, Darcy Kemper, by the way, for this exact reason, he
Mhm.
will play out of his freaking mind for one season, and then he completely disappears for like 4
Yep.
years. And then he'll
Yep.
resurface again with a new team. And that's exactly what's happened. He has played out of his freaking mind this year for LA. But if you look at his career stats, it's like he's fine. He's
Yeah.
okay. But it's like this is exactly what he did when he was with Colorado when they won the cup. And
Yep.
so it's like you don't bet against the hot goalie. We know Edmonton does not have good goaltending.
I know. Bless.
They already were struggling defensively even before Eki got hurt. Now, like, they really are struggling defensively. McDavid might not be at full strength. Draisaitl might not be at full strength. Guys who they relied upon for depth scoring last year, like Zach Hyman, have not had, the same kind of success that they did last year. I think this will be one where it's going to be a little bit more interesting. Also, the LA Kings cannot freaking lose at home, apparently, and they have
They are
home ice
so
advantage.
good at home. They are
They have home ice
so good at
advantage
home. Yeah.
for this series. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that could do it for them. And so,
Yeah.
plus, they played each other. I don't remember what day it was, but it was recently, like within the
Mhm.
last couple days, they played each other, and it was when Darnell Nurse cross-checked Quentin Byfield in the head.
That's gonna sizzle.
Obviously, yeah, huge thing. And then, and your favorite, Corey Perry from Edmonton and then Philip Deneau from LA are like in the media, kind of talking to each other through the media, saying like, Deneau was saying, like, oh, they sent in their B team to try and injure us. And Corey Perry goes, well, what were we supposed to do? Like, half our team is injured. Like, you're getting the B team. But it was, there is a lot of spice, a lot of sizzle. So I think that even though yes, it sounds like old news, Edmonton and LA, I do think that this series is going to be more exciting than it has been in years past. So I'm going to go Kings in 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I will say this. One of the players I am most excited to watch in the postseason in the entire Western Conference is Quentin Byfield. He has been really fun to watch. What are you going to do now? So I am so excited to see him. I will say that. That is the player, the young player. I'm like, okay, now what you got? Now what you got? It's going to be interesting. And again, Nashville sitting on the outside with their face pressed up against the glass going, man, I wish it was me. Yeah, well, if wish had made it so, friends, Emma and I would be there. But here we are sitting here. Here is what is coming up next week. Next week, we are going to bring you the highlights and the lowlights and all the lights from Locker Room Cleanout. Locker Room Cleanout taking place later this afternoon. We're going to hear from a number of players. We're going to hear from Andrew Brunette. We will not hear from Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz is going to address the media later next week. And of course, next week, we will bring you all of that as well. So we will let you in on the vibes, the quotes, and the feelings from the locker room as this season ends for the Nashville Predators. So make sure you tune in next Monday for that. Before we log off for this week, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this week's episodes of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back next week bringing you all the interesting quotes and thoughts from Locker Room Cleanout. We'll see you then.